I saw this yesterday. I actually was tweeting this to you. My computer went down. I got a new one today. This was put out by Bank of America. It shows every single state with the highest amount of immigrants outside of Mexico.
Right.
And they've got countries on here: Burma, Bhutan, Canada, China, Cuba, Dominican Republic, Ethiopia, India, Philippines. You know, Donald Trump says Mexico's sending their worst people to us. Do you think Bhutan is sending their worst people, or Burma is sending their worst people? Do you think all of these are the worst people of those particular countries?
Well, first, before answering your question, to say other than Mexican, I do want to point out that's like talking about abortion in the case of rape and incest. 66% of illegal immigrants are Mexican, more than a third of legal immigrants are Mexican. So that's really what we're talking about. And well, I will bet you the guys who invented India's nuclear bomb didn't bother leaving India. They're doing fine there. So even the skilled immigrants we get, and we do get some skilled immigrants on the H-1B visas, but they're doing standard computer programming work, taking jobs from Americans who graduated in the STEM fields: science, technology, engineering, math. We've been telling Americans all this time, this is the path to success.
Sure.
Major in these things. And then it turns out...
But we're not graduating kids from high school who could do that.
No, we are. Half of the STEM graduates from college, half of them are unemployed, or at least not employed in a STEM field. Their wages have not budged for a decade. Now, why is that? The big inventions, there are very few immigrants who do the big inventions. The H-1B visas, you're tied to a particular employer, so it's indentured servitude. You come in, you're tied to Facebook or tied to Apple
Google,
Computer.
Apple, all of them.
Right. So that's why they can be underpaid to, you know, sit in a cubbyhole for 12 hours straight, type out standard computer programming. So again, good for the boss, not good for the employees.
Well, listen, this week Google announced a new CEO from India. Microsoft has a new CEO from India. You know, I look at these things, I have to study them, so I can see through the ranks. They're all coming up. So, I mean, these guys are making it through the ranks. And would you say that those are opportunities that were lost, that an American lost that opportunity?
Not necessarily when you're talking about the CEO level, but let's see how they do. I'm more interested in the guy who created it. And yes, I've heard endlessly about Sergey Brin. Okay, stop telling me about Sergey Brin. Yeah, most of our immigrants are not Sergey Brin. But if we were bringing in, you know, the fact that Sergey Brin gets cited, one of the co-founders of Google, okay, if he's going to be bragged about, how about taking Ann's position that the immigrants we bring in should all be like Sergey Brin? They should all be better than us. There's no point in bringing in people we have to help, who go on welfare. We have our own poor people we have to take care of. We have our own criminals.
Why do we do it? Why do you think we do it? Is this strictly for the voter rolls?
That's how it started with the 1965 Immigration Act, and why Republicans go along with it. That's, you know, the baffling question. And that's to please the donor crowd, which is why Trump is breaking free, because he doesn't need Chamber of Commerce. He doesn't need the lobbyist money, and that's why he's soaring in the polls.
Some people will say, okay, and you know, your timeline, 1970, is that where it all started?
Well, the act was 65, and it really started, the bulk started to come in the 1970s.
So what if someone said, okay, so essentially what you're saying is when white immigrants were supplanted by non-white immigrants is when it all went downhill? What if someone said that to you, what would your reply?
Well, it's not just non-white immigrants, but I will concede that liberals they're lucky that we're bringing in, you know, Mexico's poor and not Poland's poor, because they can pull that argument. But the real point is cultures. There aren't that many successful cultures in the world. You can count them on one hand, and America's is absolutely the most successful culture. And look, it just is, for whatever reasons, and people study different cultures and what makes people honest, and you can see how our culture is being changed. Is our culture, though, the result of a melting pot, though? Is it a result of taking bits and pieces from other cultures? No. No, look, of the studies mostly done out of Harvard and UCLA, the two factors they found for the most honest cultures were, one, number of years living under British rule. Number two, Protestantism. Nobody's waiting to see, is Ireland going to bail out Greece? And they're all white people. They're genetically identical to everyone on that island. Same thing with Belgium and Switzerland. Same thing with Austria and Germany. The Protestant country's doing just fine. And they're the same people. Right. So we are talking about culture.